at you and saying hello. I have our guest here. I'm Ellen Goodwin, co-founder of Artifacts, and my other half will be joining shortly. She just landed in Orlando for the Photo Managers Conference and is taxiing as we speak. So we have a lot of folks joining us tonight. I don't know if that has to do with Zoe or Matt or both. Maybe it's the dynamic duo. So we'll give everyone a few minutes to sign in, and we'll kick this off at about 4 after the hour.
If I can see everybody. Can I see anybody or no?
No, but they can see you.
Okay. Well, type in the chat. Y'all let us know where you are from. We'd love to know who's here.
It is kind of weird when we can't see everybody. It's a little sad. You don't know if the jokes are working.
My jokes are always working. I live off of that theory. But y'all need to write and let us know where you are calling in from. I want to see. Should be in the chat feature. We should be able to see it. Boom, it's under Q&A. Okay. Oh, there it is. Chat disabled. Okay, chat is disabled. But
special Zoom.
That's all right. Q&A is good.
Q&A is good.
Winter Park.
We were just near there. Okay. Stephanie Denson. I know you, Stephanie. DC. What's up? Boston.
Oh, Miss DC.
Born and raised in Boston. Right here. A lot of DC, a lot of Arlington. Indy. I love it. Okay. Pittsburgh. By the way, Pittsburgh, I gained 6 pounds filming for a week in Pittsburgh. I wish that was the joke. It was so good.
So in the question of how did that work for you, it wasn't so great.
I love it. Oh, we got a lot of Boston, a lot of DC. I like it. Okay. All right, we're gonna wait a few more minutes for people to come in, and then we'll start asking questions. What do we got here?
Chilly San Diego.
Chilly? That's unfortunate.
San Diego, the Sunshine State. That's from what movie is that from? Anyone?
No.
Oh, I see Arlington. I used to live in Fairlington.
A lot of DC in Arlington.
Yeah.
I also used to live in Arlington. I lived in East Falls Church, if anyone's interested, for 1 year.
Oh, I had to take the metro through there for a year.
I lived there because of the metro. And
exactly.
I couldn't live in DC, so I moved back to Richmond.
Well, folks, let's kick this off. If you're just joining, I'm Ellen Goodwin, co-founder of Artifacts, and tonight we have a special dynamic duo. We have Matt Paxton and Zoe Kim joining us from the Atlanta area. Hello. And so I'm going to quick run through and say some hellos, but chat is disabled. Use Q&A freely. We will be checking it, and we would love all of your engagement. We want to know where you're from, all of your questions as we go through this, because this will be a lot of fun. We're talking about spring cleaning and decluttering with kids underfoot, and taking this from the minimalist approach, which is a specialty that you'll hear about from Zoe. And she's brought Matt into the fold on minimalism, which we're looking forward to hearing more about. Many of you have probably heard Matt talk about this in the past, but now we're getting the other side of the story, which I think will be a lot of fun this evening. So Matt, Zoe, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
And I don't even know how you're keeping all 7 kids quiet. Don't want to know, but it's probably pretty magical if we don't hear a knock on the door during this.
We will have dogs and kids probably interrupt us, and that's part of life.
Something might happen, but believe it or not, we did not bribe them with a thing.
Hey, that's part of this conversation.
Did you bribe your kids?
Mine are watching TV, I'll be honest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
all right, TV.
We don't do a lot of TV in this house, so for them to
no
get to
candy
watch TV,
though, no money. I mean,
no money, no candy. Correct.
Well, that's pretty remarkable. So let's do some quick intros. Matt, a lot of folks know you from, of course, your 15 years with TV show Hoarders, and now your own season 4 you're in with Legacy List with Matt Paxton on PBS, which I was really bummed when I realized only had like 6 episodes, and I kept waiting for my DVR to send me more, and I was like, what happened? So hello, Matt.
Yes. Hello. Thanks everybody for coming.
And if you haven't met Zoe Kim, tonight was my first time meeting her. She has a lovely account to follow on Instagram called Raising Simple, and a blog and a book, Minimalism for Families, which is available through Amazon. And so, hello, Zoe.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. So let's jump right in. I want to hear a little bit both sides of the story about this big shift that you guys went through together. Zoe, I think you led the charge on minimalism for your family. So Matt, do you want to give your shorter version and then we'll hear how Zoe got into minimalism in the first place? And
Well, yeah, mine's really easy. I I met her. I mean, I've spent 20. If most people followed me, I mean, when I was 24, my dad, my stepdad, both my grandfathers, they all passed away, and I had to clean houses, and I had to clean their 4 houses, and that's how I got into cleaning up houses, and it was really sad and really hard. And my grandfather always said, if something bad, if there's something that really sucks, do it as a job, and people will pay you to do it. And I was like, this is what he's talking about. And so I started cleaning out houses, ended up getting on Hoarders, which is a whole nother crazy story that involved Peter Walsh. And I ended up getting on Hoarders. And then here we are 20 plus years later. I've been cleaning houses and helping people deal with stuff. That being said, when I was going through my own downsizing, someone gave me this book. Someone said, read this book. And so I literally bought this book off Amazon, Minimalism for Families. It was a really good book. So good that I went to thank the author. And I've never done that before, and I've never done it since. This ended up being the author. So it's a really good book because now
that worked out well for you.
now I'm in Atlanta with we have 7 kids and combined, merged blended family with 7 kids. And so I think mine is really more of a I think the punchline of minimalism is you can really have more with less. And with the exception of kids, that is what I learned from Zoe. Now I'll let Zoe tell you her kind of journey of stuff because she wasn't always a minimalist.
No, I was not. Actually, coincidentally, I found minimalism through someone called named Bea Johnson. She does zero waste. I wanted to start wasting less in the kitchen, so I got on the computer. I found her blog. I didn't even follow blogs, and I saw pictures of her home, and the light bulb went off. Like, wow. Now, if you look up photos of her home, it is, I would say, extreme minimalism. So very minimal, very white, aesthetically minimalist, as well as lifestyle. But I just saw freedom, and that's what I wanted. So I started peeling away what I say the layers of the onion.
So wait, pause there for me, Zoe. You said
Yes.
you felt freedom. So how were you living then? Was it how cluttered, or was it just the normal kind of chaos, but you still saw that and were attracted to it?
I had 2 kids at the time, so I had all the stuff that you feel like that you think that you need for kids that you really don't need for kids, that they have like 100 toys and they probably play with 12 of them. So I had the 100 toys and all the clothes, and where you walk in the closet and you're like, I don't have anything to wear, even though you have 50 shirts. I don't know how that happens, but it does. So so typical.
Yeah.
Just yeah.
So what did that journey then look like for you?
For me, it was a slow process, just because I wasn't following along with any blogs. I feel like it was kind of, this was, oh geez, 12 years ago.
Okay. So you were
So
ahead of the curve because now there's a lot more resources available.
now there's a lot. I mean, if you're like on fire and you're just ready to burn your house down because of all the stuff, you could have it done in 2 months.
Yes.
know?
Agreed.
Yeah.
So you didn't do like an immediate purge. You didn't go top to bottom. Did you go room by room? Did you go start with your kitchen?
I started with my kitchen. Yep.
Mhm.
I started with my kitchen, which was, it was a big feat to start with. Like, that's, I wouldn't say for me the easiest part to start with.
What does that look like? So give us some context. Like, so for example, I have plates that I use at Christmas and Thanksgiving and things like that. Does
Okay.
that kind of stuff go? Or what does that look like in the kitchen?
Every single room, I did not start with the sentimental items. So when I say the layers of the onion, I'm talking the stuff that I don't have to think about, the stuff that doesn't really have any meaning to me, the stuff that I have duplicates of, the stuff that I don't use, or things that could be replaced if I absolutely needed it, but I haven't used it in a year or 2.
So how did you get over the hurdle of, I haven't used it in a year or two, but it's perfectly fine and usable, and I feel guilty getting rid of something that's perfectly fine and usable?
Yeah, so because I moved a lot
Okay, that I can understand.
and I had to, yes, I had to pack up my stuff and move it often and unpack it and rearrange it. And that started to weigh on me as I started to grow my family.
Hmm.
It really did. You know, the thing about organizing or being minimalist for me is that I'm minimalist because I don't like to organize. I'm not a naturally organized person. So it really messes with my productivity and thought to have stuff everywhere.
So now I know that there are some minimalists who literally count how many objects they have in their home, and they make their claim to minimalism based on some count of objects.
Mhm.
What is minimalism to you and how you're living it on a daily basis?
First, I would say please do not ever ask me to count my stuff because it will be torturous. I don't like to count. Sometimes people write me and they ask me how many shoes I have, and I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I just have what I use. That's about it. Let me go check.
I have more shoes than she does.
Hey, Matt, don't you have
I
a
have
Yes.
growing, robust shoe collection?
so the one, and I'll let her answer that question. We'll come back to my shoe collection, but yes,
Um,
yeah. Jane, what is minimalism to you?
yeah. So minimalism is a lifestyle of it's a filter. It's having a filter that I actually have enough in my life because I do.
Yeah.
You know, and there's minimalism as an aesthetic, and then there's minimalism as a lifestyle, and you can have both or one or the other.
I think enough for me, the word enough is really what rang for me. And actually, I mean, literally, I read her book. Like this, I met this woman, and I had a son that I have three boys, and I was raising my boys by myself. I was a new single dad, and I had them full time, and I didn't really know how to be a dad, honestly. And one of my boys was having a really hard time getting dressed in the morning, and he'd just gone through a really bad divorce. His mom had left. I mean, like lots of bad things happening, and I was learning how to not travel. So I was like kind of a crappy dad, honestly. I was yelling a lot. It just wasn't a good time, and I we would take it out on his socks. Like socks was what it was about for my son. And so because he had a texture issue, and he that line across the socks, man, he
Yep.
couldn't figure it out. And but socks is what he put on for school. He couldn't get ready for school. He would get really upset. He'd start yelling at me. I'd start yelling at him, and I would end with like, "You're choosing to behave this way." And it was a nightmare, right? It would
Yeah.
set the whole day off wrong.
It gets that spiral.
Yeah. And so what did I do? I went and bought more socks because these socks didn't work. So I bought other socks that didn't have a seam. They didn't work. I'd buy other. So I was spending more money on the problem trying to make it better. And as a kid of the 80s, I also, our parents worked a lot. And so like I was finally finding success personally. I was a single dad, and I was starting to buy more things for my kids because I wanted to make them happy. So I was trying to find happiness in stuff, and even in socks, which sounds silly. Um, but I buy this book. I went online and just groupthink. I was like, "Hey, Facebook, I don't know what to do." And a couple people said, "Read this book." And the book basically, I'll summarize it. Said, "Hey, you've got too much stuff, too many choices. You can't focus." And so I was like, "All right." So and I look at the closet, and it was the middle son, but he had the biggest room, the biggest closet. So not only did he have all of his clothes, he had all the hand-me-downs that everyone was going to get. He had all the extra clothes from winters and all that stuff. I mean, and then I was the single dad, so everybody in the neighborhood gave me all their excess boy clothes.
Yeah, you had a lot.
So I mean, it was like a Goodwill ship, cruise ship. I mean, like, crazy how many clothes I had in this one, and it was the one kid that needed less choices, not more.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so
That's how I feel about yogurt in the grocery store, by the way. I'm paralyzed by choice, but keep going.
yeah, well, yeah, and so I was realizing,
Paralysis by analysis.
yeah, so he was overwhelmed, and so her book said, "Hey, get it down to like the 6 outfit he wears." Right.
Mhm.
And so I did. I got the 6 pair of shorts he liked, and we don't like to sit on numbers, but I got him enough for a week, and then I got him enough shirts, and I got him down to like 3 drawers.
Mhm.
That was it, and then I donated all those clothes.
Yep.
To Goodwill. Plug for Goodwill. I work with Goodwill, so if you don't like them, that's fine. But find a place you like to donate. But I donated everything. The next morning, and these are all good clothes that my boys could wear, people could use. But I needed him to be happier, and I found out that stuff was weighing him down. The next morning, I mean, I mean, bedtime was hard because we were all prepared for a blow up in the morning.
Yeah.
And he wakes me up the next morning. He goes, Dad, look, he woke me up.
Mm-hmm.
He was so happy that he had gotten dressed on his own. He had his shoes on, he had his socks on, he was good. And I was like, oh, this is what this is about. It's not about like being a snob, or although we're both wearing black shirts. You don't have to wear black shirts.
Coincidence, by the way. You know why we like black? Because it's slimming.
It's slimming. I will say I have jumped into the no wardrobe thing. Like I have 3 pair of jeans and I have like 5 or 6 black shirts.
Yeah.
And that's it. And so I don't spend any time getting dressed. I just get dressed because I don't have any choices. And so it sounds silly, but as an entrepreneur, I get an extra 10 minutes each day, and that adds up, man. And
Absolutely.
so I love minimalism because I no longer spend a lot of time making choices and decisions. It's just, there's less to choose from. And I found, come back to that word enough, like I really do have enough.
Mm-hmm.
And it's given us space to like travel with our kids. I mean, we just took 6 kids to dinner before this. Right. So there was 8 of us at dinner, and we had a nice little relaxing dinner at a restaurant up the street. And one thing about minimalism, not wasting a lot of money on stuff I don't need, keeping up with the Joneses, and with the exception of tennis shoes, I now am able to, like, we can go 8 of us out to dinner.
Exactly.
And we don't even think about it because we're not wasting our money in other places. So I think enough is the right word to just, and it's made me find in my own self, like I got to find joy in things other than stuff.
Absolutely. And of course, there's no perfectionism here, right? So I'm curious. Okay, we're in the minimalist lifestyle. You both adopted it. One took the other in. So, but it's not perfection. What are the sources of clutter or chaos or energy sinks that you're still struggling with? Like on a regular basis, our audience, we're all highly imperfect as well. So how do what does it look like in a minimalist lifestyle? What does cause the clutter when you have 7 children and your own busy professional lives? What are those sources of clutter in your life?
Clean clothes that we've washed and not put away.
Well, that's me. That's not you.
I'm being nice. Dirty.
Let me speak for my own clothes.
Dirty dishes. Dirty dishes. We only have, like, we actually finally, this is the truth, with 7 kids, we had 10 dishes, but with 7, and we have 6 boys, y'all. I mean, the boys are 9, 9, 10, 11, 13, 14, and then a 17-year-old girl. When you only have 10 dishes and 3 get broke, there's not enough for dinner. So we finally had to go buy new dishes.
We had some family coming into town.
Yeah, and we didn't have
I was like, babe, I'm going to go buy a new dish set because we actually don't have enough.
So we did that. We went and bought a new dish set, but we immediately donated the 7 dishes that we don't.
Yeah, the other set.
And so there is an immediate in out, right? Like we got rid of it. And now we keep a constant donation box in our garage, and I go weekly now because if we're not using it, we get rid of it.
So we just got 2 tips here. You have an in-out system, which I try to encourage my husband as well. You bought a new t-shirt, 2 go. I mean, we're actually at the 1-to-2 ratio still. So we got an in-out strategy, and also the constant donation box is another piece of your strategy. Okay, I just want to take note of that. Okay, Zoe, your turn. What would you say are the sources of clutter and chaos? And before you answer, let me just say, everyone, hello. Welcome to Heather, my co-founder, who has just joined us from Orlando. Thank you, Delta Airlines, for getting her there safely.
Better late than never, right?
That's right. Thanks. Hi, Heather.
Thanks,
All right, Zoe, over to you.
So the sources of clutter and chaos. The thing is that even though you may have simplified every area in your home, you've got to develop the mindset and the boundaries, the practical boundaries, which we've already touched on, to keep the stuff out. Because especially when you have kids, they're going to go to birthday parties, they're going to have class parties, they're going to get gifts for Christmas, from relatives. They're going to be bringing in stuff. And most of it's probably not stuff that you want them to keep. So I would say for me, that's the source of clutter that needs to be
this week was
eradicated from the house.
So like I use holidays. I'm like, okay, y'all, like it's all like after Thanksgiving, I'm like, Halloween candy better be out of your cubbies by. So each of our kids has a little locker.
Easter.
Easter. No, I'm talking about any holiday.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, each kid has a locker, a 2 foot by 4 foot locker.
Yeah.
And whatever they put in that locker is theirs. Like none of our business.
But it has to fit.
It has to fit, and the door has to shut.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you want some candy in our house, you go to
like the trash can at my curb. It has to close, or they won't pick it up.
Close, right? So we have a room that has 8 lockers, right? Each kid, and then she and her daughter share one, and I have one. And so, like, if I'm hungry for candy, I just go into all the lockers, right? Because there's candy from all these holidays. But it's whatever they put in there. We have to respect that as long as they keep it cold. But even now, I love, like, my boys now will be like, hey, can we clean out my cubby? Like, can we do that this weekend? Because even it gets full. And we'll switch out seasonal stuff. We'll get rid of some old candy. We'll get rid of, like, all the junk from, like, they collect at school. But, like, it's really, we kind of leaning on them more to do it. And the older they get, the more they call it themselves. But we do a constant donation run. We do.
Yeah. I would say that. I mean, not so much like kids' clothes. I know a lot of families, kids' clothing is a big source because maybe they feel like they're done having children, but yet they want to hang on to the clothing just in case. Which, by the way, I've been there and done that, and I don't know how it happens, but stains appear on the clothing after years, even though you washed it.
Yes, they do. Yep.
I would say on clothes for us, we only ask once. Like, I had to get, and I've learned this from my downsizing world of my life. Like, kids will be like, adults will be like, well, I know that I know my daughter-in-law is going to want this someday, so I'll hold on to it until she wants it, right? But with the kids, what we do is I ask them, if I'm downsizing age 14, then I will ask the 2 below, and I'm like, do you guys want this? Yeah. And if they're like, no, then I don't worry about it. And I say, okay, great, and it goes into donation. Like, I do not worry about saving. My time is worth more than the clothes that I spent. And so I ask them, you like this? No? Okay, great. And it goes into donation. I don't save it for a kid that's 9 when the size is for 14. Because they all have, and someone will be like, I don't like that style. It's like,
I was gonna say the style and the sizing and the seasons. You live in a seasonal climate, like
but I had an entire attic. Yeah, when I moved here, I had an entire attic full of the maybes, right? Like, maybe this, maybe that, and I just got rid of it, and I don't miss it at all. Like, it's funny. I mean,
you forget what you actually had. Yeah. You don't. Not only do you not miss it, but you forget.
We kind of have a golden rule at Artifacts that we're going to be talking a lot more about soon, which is artifact it before you store it. Because part of that too is just even knowing what you have and where you have it. Like, what is actually in the attic? What is actually in that closet or storage unit? That if you can look at it and see it really quickly and be like, oh yeah, I forgot that was there. And do I really need that? Or you can quickly share it with somebody else and say, I'm ready to let this go. Do you want it? Right? You can have that instant conversation, but like, you need to know it's there before you can have that conversation or make that decision for yourself.
I have a humble
What are some of the golden rules you guys have to keep the clutter at bay?
The golden rules.
I mean, use it. If you don't use it, we're gonna lose it.
Use it or lose it.
Yeah, and it's real.
One in, one out.
Even with my shoes, like, I have to donate a pair or sell a pair. So I got a new pair of Nike Air Jordans, and I had to sell another pair of Air Jordans, which was very hard for me, but I had to do it. And because I only have so much space, I mean, but we have a house that our house is a little extreme. We have no closets, like, literally we have
no walk-in closets
at all.
And it's a new house. This is a house that I built with a builder. And it's like a wall closet, and he's got his 2 cabinets and I've got my 2 cabinets. It's not really a lot for a master closet. And so he only has so much space.
Yeah, I mean, I only have space for so many clothes, but I like it now. At first I thought it was really crazy, but now I love it. I mean, so equal in, equal out. One
of the other golden rules is creating a space for things and then only filling it with that amount of stuff. So like our kids, my boys, they have a basket in their closet, and all their stuffed animals have to fit in that basket.
Oh, I have an example for you. I want to share. So when I was a kid, we had built-ins in our living room, and we had drawers, and we each got a drawer. And it was actually a pretty spacious drawer. We live in a house with not a lot of storage either here in Austin. It's a 1970s home. And I was like, my daughter needs a drawer, but we don't have built-ins. So poor thing, this thing is like a tenth of the size of my drawer. She has these. They are awesome. They're collapsible baskets. They're made from recycled materials and you can fold them down. She can only have what fits in here. And that's it. Like she had 2 of them and they're in the TV cabinet. But like, it has everything from silly putty and quite literally a slinky to what's his name from Harry Potter. But like all of her chaos goes in here. And if it can't fit, it doesn't get to stay.
Exactly. You're doing good.
But you're allowing her to make those choices. And that's hard for a lot of parents, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not what you want to fit in that basket, it's what she wants to fit in that basket. And that's great until she wants to donate the Barbie doll that your mom gave her, right? And then your mom has a really strong opinion about that. And that is where I've had to learn a lot. It's like, it's what the kids want, and let them have that space. Now, am I saying that's a hard fast rule? Sometimes I might pull like, oh, that's my dad's art, like that's been dead for 20 years. That is worth a lot of money. Maybe I'll put that to the side, But for the most part, we let the kids decide what they're keeping. And I will honestly, for me, minimalism is eliminating the amount of decisions I have to make in a day, because my time is insanely stretched.
That's our most valuable
asset.
Yeah.
And so now I can't tell you like how few decisions I actually make now, and I love it in my life matter for that.
That's fabulous.
Except for my business partners, as you guys know, sometimes it's frustrating for people when I'm like, I don't know, what do you guys want to do? Because I don't even think about making decisions anymore. I just have eliminated that out of my life, and that's part of minimalism, honestly.
Speaking of getting the kids involved, do you guys have any tips for how do you get your kids involved in sorting through that clutter and sorting through the things they do want to keep? What's worked for you?
We make them.
No.
With an iron fist.
Yeah.
Okay.
Parenting.
You evolve. You evolve. Matt's very patient. Matt is very fun. He's very inclusive. He just finds a way to make everything feel like fun.
Whistle while you work?
Yes, exactly. He is a sing. Yes, he actually does sing while he works.
Do a lot of singing.
Sings in the morning when we're all like not happy to be awake, and I'm like, "What are you doing?"
It's gonna be a good day.
Yeah.
Start singing.
No. Yeah. So the way that I get kids involved is through just conversations, everyday conversations. So when I first started, I only had 2 at the time. I have 4. So Matt has 3, I have 4. If y'all didn't know that, 7 combined. So I had a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I would just include them in conversations about me getting rid of my stuff. So in the kitchen, oh my goodness, like my 5-year-old, like, oh, we have so many spoons. And this is not a big deal to them, but this wasn't a big deal to my daughter at the time, but it was like, we only need like 3 of these wooden spoons. Like, which one's your favorite? Like, just getting her seeing someone letting go of stuff. So you want to model the behavior that you want to see. That's what you want to do. You don't want to come in and dictate, you have to get rid of this and like yell at them. And that's not going to work. Yeah. They're going to be like, no, I don't like you. And I want to keep all my stuff.
They're going to go the opposite on purpose.
Yeah.
I include them. I say it, and this is more for my downsizing, but inclusion and like, you have to respect their opinion. And I've said this a little bit, but like, I also make it achievable. I think achievable is the kicker one here. Like, don't go into it like, go clean your room. If you say go clean your room, it's too grandiose, and there's nowhere they can go. It's just to say, hey, I need you to go get me 2 stuffed animals that I can donate to a young girl that doesn't have stuffed animals. I keep it really small, very achievable, because you got them for like 3 minutes, right? If they're going to get involved in this. And so you got to make it, start with 1. Like, hey, do you have 1 book that you have not read? Now I'm going to pepper it a little bit. Like, I do this a lot. I call this positive manipulation. And a lot of times I'll be like, hey, do you want to keep this amazing book that is awesome? Or do you just like want to donate this one that you don't read? right? And so my voice went up, my excitement went up, and I get them really into the one I want them to do. Now, obviously, I'm taking them down the road I want them to do. But if they're like, yeah, no, I like the other one, definitely the other one. I go, great. So I can donate this one? They're like, yeah. Okay. Either way, they donated something, but I kept it very small and I honored their wish at the end. And so, but on the donation side, I don't get into selling. I talk about donating a lot because kids will give away a lot more than you think they will. If they know another kid's going to get something better for it, man, they're all about the donating.
Of course, as they get older, my oldest son is 14, so now
he wants to pay you for it.
now he wants us
Yeah.
to pay him, or he wants to sell it. Like I donated his Nerf guns.
Yes.
I
That we
donated
paid for.
that we paid for that were gifts. And he was like, I was gonna sell those and I was gonna make money.
So then when he said, I said, great, you've got 48 hours, go sell them. If you can sell them on Facebook Marketplace or something, go for it. Like, and that's something I've had to learn as the kids get older.
Yeah.
Because a lot of my techniques were for really like young, well-behaved kids, right? And now I got normal teenagers.
Typical.
And if they want to sell it, great, go put the effort. Because if you can sell it, then you get the money.
I like that you give them a discrete timeline too. You have 48 hours, right?
Yeah.
My daughter did a book fair on our front porch for the neighborhood kids, and she sold all her books that were too young for her. And I was like, all right, it's on you. She priced them herself. She found out what was too high and what was too low. I was like, all right, it's on you. And you can always go buy new books.
Yeah.
How old is your daughter?
She did that when she was 7. She's now 13.
Yeah.
Wow.
She's entrepreneurial.
That's fun.
Yeah, I mean, but
I like the timeline, fixed timeline.
I think timelines are really important. If you're downsizing, I really push or the other side of this is the adults. Like on my senior world where I work, they have the adult children stuff, right? And they're like, well, I'll hold it for another 2 years. I'm like, man, you've been holding your kids stuff, your adult kids stuff and your grandkids stuff for 20 years. Like I've had families that aren't moving to senior living because their house is literally a storage unit. And so I tell everybody, whatever level it is, like legit, like you've got the time limit is X, and then you have to be firm on that time limit because we've already proven we've been weak on our enforcement of time limits. And if we come out like, hey, this is the time limit, and then we don't follow through, then they know that, they can just keep rolling over. So if you do use the time limit, you got to enforce it and you got to be strong about it. Not rude, just real.
I love this. Heather, did you want to pop in with another question?
Sure. So switching gears, Matt, talking a bit about the downsizing and the older side of family members. Can you share any experiences you've had with the adult children not wanting to let go of stuff, and how have you helped them let go and part with some of those items?
Yeah. So the adult children tend to be led by guilt, and they don't want it. Their mom didn't want the item. They don't want the item, but they take it 3 generations down because grandma wanted mom to have it. Mom wanted daughter to have it. And they accept these things because it's guilt. And so I push really hard on, if you don't want it, like you got to say so. I'm big about telling the stories. Obviously, if you've watched my TV show or read my book, I'm all about telling the stories. It's why I work with Artifacts, just so everybody knows. I mean, it's the easiest way to tell the story. This is not a plug. It's just the easiest tool. I mean, I've been very open. I was going to create an app to help people record their stories. And then I found out Artifacts already existed. And it was so good. I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm not going to do that. I guess I'll join them, the old hair club for men, and I was just like, it was a really good app. And so for me, it's really about telling the stories. And a couple things happen about that. When you tell the stories, you find out you don't need the item anymore, because the story lives on forever. And specifically for the adult children, like most of my clients are 45 to 65-year-old women, because they are usually the one tasked with managing all the household stuff. And what's changed in the 20 years, really, the 20 years ago, the oldest adult daughter, who was 45 or 55, was a homemaker. Well, now they're a CEO, a lawyer, a doctor, they're everything. But they still have to do all of those things and raise their families and manage their husband's family or their partner's family. Like, they have so many more. So I've just said, like, hey, this is all about getting those memories down. And so what happens when you record the memories is you find out you don't need the stuff as much, and you're willing to donate it or sell it. And the memories kind of live on. And then most importantly, your adult parents, they find out what really matters to you. And for some reason, so many of us don't share the stories. And what happens is, and the grandparents, their biggest issue is nobody wants my stuff. And I promise, our dog is here. They all say nobody wants our stuff, but that's not true. We want your stuff. We just don't want that stuff. We don't want the dining room, basically. We want to know. I mean, like I tell everybody now, if you think that your granddaughter doesn't want your stuff, take her into your closet and let her shop in her closet and let her pick out 5 items and tell her the story. When did you wear that fur coat? When did you wear those earrings? When did you wear that awesome hat? Right? Like and I promise you, when you start telling those stories, they're going to really, really want those items. And you also get rid of them. And I say, again, I do artifact the items because I want those stories to live on for everybody, not just the 2 people in that room. And so I think it's really important, man, share the stories. The more you share those stories, the quicker your house gets empty and the quicker your next generations enjoy the stuff that mattered to you.
Have you brought items like this into the fold? And so you talked to Zoe, you referenced minimalist aesthetic versus minimalist way of living.
Yep.
How does that blend together and how you decorate? You have all this beautiful decoration advice and all of this, and even an Amazon list I found. How do you bring items that are sentimental or have stories into the aesthetic, or do you?
I do have, well, I say a few. And again, I told you I'm not a counter. So I want to say, Heather, you weren't here yet, but I was like, please don't ask me to count my stuff. I have no idea. That's like torture.
Not that kind of minimalist.
But I have some items from my grandparents. They were really special people to me. I lived with them for a few years during my high school years. So I have a ring and a paperboy badge from the Boston. My grandfather was a Boston paperboy. So I have a few of those items. But the thing is that when I was younger and right before I started becoming minimalist, I had much more of my grandparents' things because they had just passed away. So, and I was young, so I starting out, so I had their coffee table and just other furniture. And as I grew, I was like, this isn't really my aesthetic, and I don't love this coffee table, and maybe I don't even really need the coffee table. So I feel like I could let it go because I had a small number of other items that were more important to me. So and I think that I have to give her credit, Marie Kondo. Instead of choosing what to let go of, you should choose what to keep. That's really helpful. And you don't have to keep everything.
I will say the painting behind her.
Yes, someone said they liked it in the Q&A.
This is actually one of my dad's paintings, and my dad was a pretty well-known artist in Richmond, Virginia, where I grew up. And I had all of my dad's art when he died. And then when I moved here, I had like a lot of paintings. And I remember it being an issue. Like, I mean, our house is. You can go on. By the way, go on Raising Simple, her Instagram. Go on Raising Simple. You can see our entire house.
It's all windows.
It's all windows, and so like. We only have like 5 paintings in the whole house. And I was like, I'm bringing 20 of my dad's. Like, where are they going to go? She's like, well, you'll just have one and you'll rotate them out. And I was really against that. And that's one of her tips that has really worked for me. I mean, this is where I hang my art, like right here. That's it. But now I really kind of own it and I love it. And I switch it out about every month. And this is one of my dad's from his 1969 collection. He was in college and he got into art. He ended up becoming a really good artist later in life. That's not the best painting he ever did, but it's of that's actually of my grandparents' farm. And it's where my dad learned to dream. He would sit on that wagon and he would just like ride around. He just liked to ride around the wagon. He wasn't actually working the field or anything, but he would just go out there and ride around the wagon and dream. And I remember my dad telling me that story. And so I have all my dad's paintings, and I'll rotate them out about every month. And the second part of that is when I put up a new painting, I talk to my boys about it and I tell them the stories. I'm like, oh, this is my dad. And they can repeat all those stories now. They know them all because we've cycled through them all. My brother has some of them now, but.
You're so good about that though. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's something that's good about you guys and Artifacts is that for people like me who are not good storytellers, we can take some time in a weekend to artifact our stuff and have that documented and not feel like oh my goodness, I didn't tell them about this and I didn't tell them about that, because I actually do have items from my grandparents.
We have a whole bucket of stuff
that I don't know the stories behind it, and I wish I did.
And I think this is something we touched on an article just a week or two ago. It's called Storytellers Beware, because even if Matt thinks he's the best storyteller in the world and you think you're not, we tell people, are you sure you told the story? Did you tell it more than once? Were they actually listening? Were they ready to hear it? Right? There's a number of reasons why people don't have the stories.
Yeah.
And that becomes a big part of it. And that Matt, when we do the recap of this event, we can also include the artifact of that painting in the recap, because it's a great example of, I have told that story, but still life happens and our memories aren't perfect. And it's one of those things where it's like, even though Matt has told this story over and over, I can guarantee you, it'll be in the artifact. And Matt loves doing Matt, you always do audio in a lot
I
of
prefer the audio. Yeah. So I do audio and video. I do the picture, and I have like so many things I need to go artifact as I'm here talking to you guys right now. Like I think about it, but like I've got 5 paintings I haven't artifacted, but like I go into it and then I tell the story, and I'll be really blunt, honest, is my dad's been dead 22 years ago, and 22 years now, and I can't remember his voice anymore. And like that really my dad was a very flamboyant, amazing speaker, and I got a lot of my stage presence from my dad. And in fact, I think I told you all the story one time. I was in Denver a couple of years ago doing a speech in Fort Collins, Colorado. And I mean, I'm from Richmond, Virginia, and I'm doing a speech, and this random lady comes up and she goes, "Are you Ed Paxton's son?" And I go, "Yes, I am. How did you know?" She goes, "Well, you sashay across the stage like your father." And I just remembered the word sashay. Like I loved it. It made me laugh. But I record on Artifacts because I want my kids to be able to hear my voice later, or the video. I want them to have the video. And so I do. And I'm lazy. I don't want to type. And so my artifacts if you go on Artifacts and look at my artifacts, it might look a little, it's not as thorough as a lot of the really good artifactors we have on there. I mean, there's people that are super thorough. I'm not, but I'm more about just getting the story out there. And so that's what works for me. But whatever works for you, I mean, Heather taught me this. Heather's really taught me and made me a much better storyteller, believe it or not. A story creates more story, right? A memory creates a memory. And so as I've started to artifact more, I'll start to tell the story, and then I'll remember something totally new. And I'm like, oh my God, I forgot. Like for me, the one I hang on right now is, what did it smell like that day? Or what did it feel like? Like I'm talking about a memory, and oh man, like I think about my dad a ton. But for me, like I remember what that town smelled like, the farm, and I could hear the boots of the cowboys walking in my grandpa's store. And like, those are the things I start with, those memories, and then it gets, it just goes somewhere awesome. And so for me, I don't know, it's all about the story. And like, honestly, I don't really want any stuff anymore. I mean, I'm trying to get rid of everything. We're only 10 years away from having no kids, which is right around the corner, And so like, we're just like ready to get rid of stuff, because we don't, like, by the time we get 7 kids down, we don't want to clean up.
When all of our stuff is out, it feels like our house is a disaster.
Oh yeah, disaster. Yeah.
But really, it's not. It's just that it's all the stuff that we use. Like,
oh yeah, I mean, if you come in our house at 6:30, you would think Thanksgiving just happened. Yeah. We eat at 5:30. Yeah. She cooks, I clean. Yeah. And
thank you.
Yeah, and you're gonna laugh. I mean, this, the what's the saying? Dance like
I cook like
dance
like I'm not cleaning.
The dance like no one's watching, right? And sing whatever. And I say she cooks like no one's doing the dishes, and so I have to. She literally uses.
I cook like I'm not doing the dishes.
She cooks these big Italian meals every night, and she cooks literally. We use everything we have in the kitchen. Like every dish we have is used, and so it's all out there. And so we wash everything up at night, and luckily she's got a cleaner. But like our house does look crazy every night. And then, but I live by, you must have a clean sink when you go to bed. Yeah. Like if you wake up in the morning with them, and that is something
kitchen reset.
Kitchen has to be that's what she calls it, kitchen reset. But your kitchen better be clean. And because if you wake up, if you go to bed giving up on your kitchen, and you're waking up already giving up. Like you've already quit.
To my house.
I'm not coming to your house.
That might be our biggest guilt factor.
No, okay.
She would leave it all night. She'd be fine with it.
No, I mean, if I've had a bad day.
Yeah. I don't.
I will. I mean, most of the time I like to
Yeah.
I know you guys.
Yeah.
You guys don't leave.
I think it's important to have a fresh house when you get up in the morning.
Yeah,
Really
he's
do.
more like he's the
Mhm.
person who's gonna fold his clothes neatly, and I'm like,
Mhm.
I take them off inside out because I wear skinny jeans.
Mhm.
I leave them inside out till I have to wear them again. I just throw them in there. But this is the thing: if you don't have that many, you don't have
Mhm.
to fold it and be meticulous and organized.
I think that's the
some
key. But
questions.
can we answer a question that somebody wrote in, because this is perfect for this? I'm going to answer this.
Yeah, we've got some really great questions. Thanks, Matt.
I want to answer
One
this.
of them is, what do you suggest if one partner wants to go minimalist and the other doesn't? And the comment is, honestly, if it was up to my wife and she wanted to go minimalist, she could do it with all my stuff and I might not realize it, except for the tools, maybe. But it does seem like an approach that has to be mutual for both to work.
So you need. I know. I'm like, wait. Let me tread this lightly.
I already did. I mean, we're good. Yeah.
You're good. Well, you were willing, okay? You were a
Let
willing
me start it and
body.
you can run with it. Yeah. I
Okay.
would say this. It works better if you're both interested.
Of course.
Um,
Everything does.
But how she sold me was, and I'm going to shut up and let you finish it. But I had an unhappy life, right? Although the guy from Hoarders was ironically overwhelmed with stuff. Like, I spent all my days dealing with stuff. And so I came home and I didn't really want to. And I was doing that whole 80s thing where you like, I'm going to buy my kids stuff so they love me. And I got to work harder and work more hours to afford this stuff. And so I ended up being away from my kids to buy them more stuff to make them happy. And we were all unhappy. And so I was stuck in that like hamster wheel of money and stuff and happiness.
Mhm.
And I was just miserable. And so I was willing to try something else. And also she was beautiful. And so like, that helped, right?
Thanks,
But
babe.
still are. But like at the end of the day, I shouldn't say what is, but at the end of the day, I wanted more out of life. And so I think that's where you should start with your partner. Like if you're not both if you're both happy and you got a lot of stuff, then whatever, who cares? You're good. Like we're not
Well,
judgment of stuff. For us, we both were looking for happiness in something else. And I will tell you, I had to leap as the partner. I mean, I write about this in my book, and I don't want to take over here, but like I mean, I was literally moving here and I freaked out. And I was like, I can't live without some of this stuff. I was in my attic and I was going through
you
like
did. It's true.
my high school stuff. And I called you. I was like, I don't know.
And I was like,
And what did you say? Do you remember what you said?
not exactly, but to the
Yeah.
effect of, well, then don't.
And she's like, well, then stay there with your stuff. I hope you guys have a great life. She goes, your future life is here. And we don't have space for it. And so I will tell you, I had to leap. That's the point of that. It sounds like I admired the strength also, by the way, just say that was important to me. But at the end of the day, I had to leap and try it. And so I think what she's taught me before, which is start smaller, like don't do the whole house. What would you say? Like, how would you, if you one partner wanted to try it, like what would you tell them to like where to start?
Well, first off, I just want to acknowledge that from my experience and what people write in on my blog and on my website is most couples are not starting off at the same time. Most of the time, because it's life and we're people, and although we're married and together, we're at different stages and we have different ideas. But honestly, I think the best way to get your partner on board is for you to minimize your own stuff in a like the most happy manner that you possibly can. Do not attack their stuff. Do not attack them. Do not force them to get rid of it. Don't make like snide comments. Just be like, this is what I'm doing for me, and I feel so much better. Let them see you living the benefits of less. That to me is the best way to get them on board, because you want them to see how good that life is, how much easier it is.
How would you recommend carrying that forward? So you're talking about within a marriage, and that was what the question was. What if it's, looking out at your parents who are going to eventually be downsizing and they have a lot and they have no need to get rid of anything at this point in time, but you're watching that horizon come closer and closer. How do you share that philosophy outward when it's not your own space and it's really none of your business, except in the end, you're going to be helping?
How do you get them to get rid of their stuff before you have to deal with it? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, I built a company that could help, but what else?
Yeah. So, I've been really fortunate. My mom watched me simplify my home and my life, and she started to do the same thing. And it was just because I wasn't sitting there bashing her, making her feel bad. I was just saying, like, I need to do this for me. This is really like weighing on me. I mean,
It's like if your partner's telling you to lose weight while they're eating Ben and Jerry's, right? Like, how deeply are you going to accept that advice, right? If they're working out with you on a daily basis, you're going to get up and work out with them. And I think it's the shadowing, leading by effort, not just words. And I think that's where you'll start to see it. With your parents, you need to set your expectations lower. Your
yeah.
parents are not going to do it as much as you are. They're just not, and that's okay. And honestly, this is not a popular answer. Men over 85, I don't really push it at all. Women are, and this is from my hoarding world, just my hoarding advice, I will tell you, women are more willing to
change,
not change, but acknowledge it and possibly change, grow. Men tend not to. And so what I don't want to see, this is what I hate when I see someone at 85. Do you really want to spend the last 5 years arguing about stuff? I mean, you're going to be cleaning it up at this point. If you're going to be cleaning it up or not. And just go get ice cream. Don't fight. Don't fight about this stuff.
Yeah. Don't let it ruin your
Don't let
relationship.
it ruin the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And I've seen so many families devastated over stuff. And don't ever do a surprise clean out. That's the worst thing you can do. Like, mom's in rehab for 2 weeks. She broke her hip. Let's clean her house out. She'll be really happy. And I can't tell you. I mean, I literally have seen families.
Oh, that's wicked.
I've seen families destroyed over it, and they
It
never
defies
call.
one of your golden rules that we will absolutely summarize for folks of like the involvement in the decision making and the respect of choices.
Well, and it's more enjoyable if they actually do it together, and if you do it with them. Don't tell them what to do, but do it with them. Try.
Ask them ask them if you can help them.
Yeah.
Simplify some of their things so that they can enjoy the space or enjoy their living room.
And I'll say, because a lot of us live far apart now, we tend to like, we're home for Easter weekend, or we're home for Thanksgiving weekend. Let's do a lot on Friday. That ain't gonna stick. Like, clean for an hour and then go get ice cream or go get coffee, have fun, go bowling. Actually, it's hard for families not to have fun bowling. I challenge you to find something.
As long as you can laugh at yourself.
Yeah, well, you gotta laugh, have fun. But like, for me, it's all about, like, really baby step it. Don't try to cram it all in. It took you 30 years to fill the house. You're not going to. I mean, I don't want to keep selling artifacts here, but I have started to get families that, hey, just do 2 items. Like, just do that for fun and tell the stories. Because what happens, they start telling the stories, and like, that's how people get started. I don't need you to clean the house. I just want you to do 2 items. And if you do that, you'll find that it's a more positive vibe. And that's the king thing here. Like, with us, it's all about positive energy. If you yell and scream, like, we both shut down and our kids shut down. And so nothing happens. And your parents are probably going to shut down too if you yell. And I'll tell you, with hoarding, anytime I was in a family situation, everybody started yelling, it shut down. So like, one of my bigger pieces of advice is, if you can see the mess, don't have that conversation. The conversation about the stuff, you should not be able to see the stuff.
This may follow on nicely, Matt. This question we've got for you and Zoe. Do you ever have to go to extremes with clients and say, for instance, what would you be most devastated by losing in a natural disaster, and then have them essentially lose all the other stuff but that, or any other ways you've gone to kind of those extremes to help people understand the stuff problem?
You want to answer? You want to answer?
Yeah, you go first.
I've seen people do that. That's not my vibe. I don't do that. I have done the thing called, believe it or not, my show is called Legacy List, and the original title that I came from was from hoarding. I called it a fire list, and I'd say, hey, write down all the things you want in case your house catches on fire. And they would kind of write on the back of the paper, like, yeah, right on the front, single space, back, whatever, write all the items you want to keep. And then I'd pull out a stopwatch. This is how long ago it was. It was like an actual stopwatch, not a cell phone. And I would say, okay, you got 2 minutes, your house is on fire, go find it. And I would do that to show that you can't find it all, right? But it didn't really stick. It didn't super work. And so where I switched that to was Legacy List. And so what I would say is like, in the legacy list is just your top 5 items like that are most important to you.
Yeah.
And then you need to share those, like why they're important. They typically aren't financially valuable, they're emotionally valuable. And then they really set up a precedence of the people that are most important in your life. I think it's more productive to stay positive and stay away from the extremes. We are practical minimalists. We are not hardcore minimalists. Hardcore minimalism, I think extreme anything is challenging, right?
I mean, yeah, it is.
What would you say?
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you.
I just think it's practical. Like, do what works for you and you and your family and you and your partner, whatever that makeup is. And I mean, her mom's got us beat on minimalism. Her mom lives in our backyard in a 500 square foot apartment.
We built her a tiny house.
She has a little tiny house in our backyard.
Yeah.
And I mean,
she's still young, by the way. She
lives,
still works.
She works and she basically lives out of her car with 3 dogs. And she's like, she's got a pretty cool life, honestly.
Yeah.
But she has no stuff that holds her back. And she's really, but she like started behind us and then past us, but at her own pace with no one.
No children.
No children will do that to you. But
that was the crux of the evening. 7 kids and minimalism. So that says a lot. I think, Heather, you have a question to close us out for the evening.
I do. We've got time for one more question. So we'd love to leave our audience knowing what's next for the 2 of you in your professional careers.
I'm gonna go to bed. That's about it, man.
Professional
careers, yes.
I don't know. We're both kind of in a nap stage of our careers, honestly. Like,
raising kids, blended our family, and we're comfortable right now, and we're enjoying our life. So, there's the ups and the downs, and
we enjoy. If you do check out our Instagram, I mean, she's built this amazing house we live in, and she gets a lot of requests to help design houses. I think we'll eventually accept another one of those. I'm still doing legacy list. I'm gonna do that till I get an Emmy. Like, I'm really focused. I think you'll see us.
Third time's the charm, right?
Yeah, I think you'll see us more on doing more podcasting because we enjoy. We've been testing this out, but honestly, man, we're parents first, and we've really had to embrace that. And that is easy to do when you can pay all your bills, right? When you can't pay all your bills, it's a little harder. I'll just say for me, it's been really, really important. We have a better life because we have less stuff. Like, our kids have a better life because we have less stuff. And so I'm like kind of preaching that a lot, and I love that. But I've transitioned it to my seniors. I'm trying to get a lot of my aging clients to really understand, like, hey, like, you can have more with less later in life. Wait a minute, I know we got our favorite show just got mentioned.
Yeah, we've been watching this show,
Shrinking.
Matt Ramsey, Shrinking as well. Though I think you're a little bit ahead of us because
oh yeah, spoiler alert. Jeez.
Where's the spoiler alert?
We're not to the part where he's been invited to live with his daughter out west.
Total spoiler alert.
Until let's see, getting him willing to deal with it until it's an emergency. That's a lot of people. But I think that just goes back to the whole perspective of minimalism, is getting people to realize how it's costing them time and energy and money.
Yeah, I can rephrase this.
And then shifting that to the benefits of you don't have to deal with that. Yeah,
for me, minimalism came in my life at the right time. I knew about it. I made fun of it, honestly. I met her we actually met face to face finally at my TED Talk, and I was totally making fun of minimalism in my TED Talk because I thought it just meant you wore a black t-shirt, right? And I didn't really know anything.
Now look, you're wearing a black t-shirt.
No, I'm wearing a black t-shirt. But for me, I needed more. I needed more happiness, more joy. And so it was an option that I was willing to try. I think with your parents, don't focus, like, they think extreme minimalism is like, get rid of everything. That's not the case. Like, get them to admit that they want more in life. Like, that's because they're trust me, they're just as frustrated as you are with the stuff. But if you harp on the stuff, they're going to get negative and they're going to pull back. Whoever it is in your life, if you want to try it, just say, hey, like, you got to admit, I'm not happy with me and my stuff and what I'm doing. If you put it on them, they're going to fight. And then just try I mean, she always says try a bathroom and just try like the soaps that you haven't used and try
Yeah.
and put them away somewhere and see how you like it for a week.
Yeah.
And just test it. Start really small. But I say focus on what makes you unhappy, what will make you happy. Try it. And if you both dig it, then try a little more and keep trying. And you'll see where you get. And it may work for you, it may not.
Well, on that note, we'll wrap for the evening. It has been an absolute pleasure, as expected, having you both and getting both sides of the story and
Yeah.
viewpoints. It's I think really essential, and I think our audience has enjoyed it. We will be posting this video as we always do on YouTube. We're also going to do an article that we'll have in Articles by Artifacts, where we're going to share all of those great tips and strategies and what's worked and what hasn't with folks, so that they can kind of get the practical minimalism and the tips about what, recognizing what's enough in life. So we will have that. And for everyone, thank you for joining. Next week, we are shifting topics pretty forcefully into the world of genealogy. And we're going to be talking about genealogy tools and tech and how we can help people get started if they have a true genealogy bug, or they're just the family historians, or maybe what we talked about tonight, they're the family keepers and they need to figure out what to do with it all. So thank you all.
Artifact.
Thank you, Zoe. Yes, please artifact.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks.
And thank you everyone for coming on and listening. It's been fun.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Matt. Thank you, Zoe.
Thank you.
Night.